Hey guys, John Lee Dumas here, founder and host of EO Fire, and you're listening to Bravepreneur Parents Academy with ldquo.
Welcome to Bravepreneur Parents Academy, where the world's most inspiring entrepreneurs reveal their most defining childhood moments and share their legacy for raising brave little heroes who will grow up to change the world. And now, he still reads comic books under the blanket at bedtime. Please welcome your host, best-selling author, award-winning speaker, and self-confessed geek dad, Balaji O. You know, like the hotel in Vegas? Yeah, no, that's really his name. Balaji O.
Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of the Bravepreneur Parents Academy podcast. Today, we have the most amazing mother on the line. I'm talking about, yes, the woman behind the momentsaday.com website. It's Chelsea Lee Smith. She's the mother of two adorable boys, a beautiful baby girl, and the wife of an emergency doctor. Chelsea is originally from North Carolina, right down the street from where I am. But I don't know if it's me. She chose to move all the way across the world to Brisbane, Australia. And we're going to get to talk to her about intentional parenting. If you are a parent of young kids, you very likely have stumbled upon her website, seen some of her content in social media. She is that prolific. Let's find out how this amazing mom does it. Without further ado, Miss Chelsea Lee Smith. Chelsea, hey, how's it going?
Good. Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here.
All right. Thank you for making the time once again. I'm really excited about being able to talk to you. It's interesting because, Chelsea, I stumbled upon your website and your content years ago and had no idea who you were. And just kind of over the years, every now and then would find myself on your site. So you've done a really good job of consistently putting out valuable content about intentional parenting. But I got to ask, though, as we get into this topic of intentional parenting, where did this come from? Sometimes it feels like, goodness, is this Lady Mary Poppins? How does she get it all done? How did you get into intentional parenting?
That is a good question. Well, I was actually just talking to my husband about this the other day because I think sometimes, like when I meet people in person and I tell them I'm a blogger, I feel this weird, embarrassment that I'm just a normal person. I have my own struggles, my own parenting issues, my own questions, and, different things I'm working through. But the blog is, a part of my life and a part of what I'm going through, but you don't see all the, that's only the tip of the iceberg. So I definitely don't have all the answers. I wouldn't call myself an expert on parenting. I think I've done a lot of research and a lot of exploring about, teaching kids about character traits and virtues and all of that. But yeah, so I guess it's, I'm sharing what I've learned and, what works for me.
Yeah, and I love that you characterize it that way because it is true. With social media and the internet, a lot of times we can feel like we know someone simply because we've had an online relationship with them for years, but really we're getting to see one facet or a few facets of their very multifaceted life.
Yeah.
So we do appreciate you sharing that with us because I think you really have helped a lot of parents and families just by sharing your experiences. What was it like, though, Chelsea, for you to sort of embark on the journey of starting Moments a Day? I mean, way back then, this site didn't exist. It was just an idea, I imagine. Why did you start the site, and what was it like in those first few months?
I actually started blogging about a little over 6 years ago when my first son had just turned 1. So I've been blogging about parenting and things for quite a while. And eventually I realized that I had this passion for, character education And so I wanted to share that in a more public area because I was doing more personal blogging, sharing our stories and that sort of stuff. So I kind of learned about blogging through my first, personal blog. And then I decided to start a public blog, which is Moments a Day. So that was about 2.5 years ago. And I started it out with a business model and, some plans in mind. But yeah, it was definitely, it's great blogging these days. There's so many doors opening and it's a great way to meet people and work online.
Why the focus, though, Chelsea, on moments? That is a very prevalent theme in everything you talk about. Unpack that for us a little bit.
I guess when I was starting Moments a Day, my aim was to spend a few moments a day with my own kids, talking about personal growth, talking about virtues, trying to help them understand different character traits. And I had realized in the previous years that just spending a few intentional moments thinking and exploring these concepts with our kids really made a difference. Like I felt like it didn't have to be some long drawn out, 3-hour thing.
Right.
Of course I had very young kids when I started the blog as well, but I wanted it to be simple and easy and just something that you kept coming back to so that it became a part of your routine, I guess.
That really, really resonates because probably most people that have modern families, whether they are two-income parent families or one of the parents is staying at home with the kids, regardless, living in this modern world, we're all so busy that sometimes the parenting, it's not necessarily secondary, but I'll tell you just from experience, sometimes I feel like my work gets my best energy.
Yes.
And then my kids get what's left.
Right.
And I don't do that intentionally, but it just kind of works out that way. What's your perspective on that sort of dynamic for modern families?
It's hard. I think especially for entrepreneurs and, people who are really passionate about their work, it's hard to just fit everything in because there are so many things that, need our attention these days. So for me, I guess my husband has been really great about, he's sometimes only works part-time. He takes all his leave during the year in Australia. Luckily, they get a lot of leave. But, just making sure that we're taking the time to be with the kids and focusing on them 100% instead of rushing around. I guess for me as a work-at-home mom, I definitely have to put limits on how much I do and, that sort of stuff. It's definitely a struggle. Yeah.
And Chelsea, how old are your kids right now?
They're 7, 4, and my little girl is almost 11 months.
Wow, got a birthday coming up.
Yeah.
Exciting. Are you guys going to have a party? Do you have a theme? What's going on?
We do. I had 2 boys, so I've been thinking about a little girl's first birthday party for a while. But I haven't decided. We actually, with the birthday parties, we usually choose a service component. So I haven't actually chosen, we do like fundraising or, book collection or something instead of gifts, we basically don't want to receive lots and lots of stuff. So that's what we've done over the years. So I haven't organized all of it. I haven't decided what charity or whatever we're going to do, but yeah, it's coming together. I'll blog about it, I'm sure.
I'm sure you will. But that actually ties into something that I'm really interested in, Chelsea. You have a passion for acts of kindness. And I read on your blog how a lot of your focus with your kids is centered around character growth, teaching them virtues and values. But you also talked about how, well, once we have these great characters, these great virtues and values, we develop the desire to give them away, to essentially to use them to help others. So why is kindness, why is service such a big component of what you're trying to teach your kids?
Well, I guess when I think about the purpose of life, like when I die, basically, everything I'm going to leave behind, it doesn't matter how great I was as an individual, it only matters how I help other people. So when I guess I'm teaching my kids and also, focusing on personal growth myself, the whole purpose is to be able to serve others. So that's why I kind of, write a bit about acts of kindness and try to share the great ideas online. I mean, we don't do as much as I would love to do, but I'm constantly being inspired by other people and trying to incorporate it into our life as well. So it's definitely, it's one of my favorite sections on my blog because it just reminds me that there are so many opportunities to be kind and to serve others. And everyone does it in a different way. I don't think that there's a right way. Everyone doesn't have to go to the nursing home every week or, there's different ways to do acts of kindness. And also it's just about living a life of kindness. So it's not about tallying up, volunteer experiences but it's about just the life you live and trying to bring happiness to whoever's around you.
That's really simple, but I feel also really profound. Living a life of kindness. It takes the kindness from being an afterthought or something you do just on Sundays or every time except during rush hour and kind of makes it more a way of life. But I do want to highlight something, Chelsea, that I picked out as a pattern with how you teach your kids about character. You kind of talked about how, as opposed to telling the kids, particularly young kids, as opposed to just telling our kids, we can actually have activities for them to go through. And you almost make it akin to them learning math or English or science, where it's a continuous thing, almost like a slow drip sort of thing where they're continuously learning these values. According to you, these kids don't just, boom, wake up and have these virtuous value systems. Tell me about that.
Right. Well, I think there's two parts in what you're talking about. As far as the education, I think that if I could, I would change the whole educational model.
Really?
I think, that there's a lot of talk these days about, education and, it's kind of a mass production of get the workers out in the world and it's not ideal. But if it were me and next year as we homeschool, I'm going to be exploring this. And there's other people, doing this around the world and other great organizations and nonprofits. But starting your education with capacity building with, one organization I love is called Full Circle Learning. And Teresa, the founder, calls them habits of the heart. So the units that she develops for learning are based around these habits of the heart, which for young kids are kind of virtues, kindness, and that sort of thing. And then what you learn, as far as the academics, are based around this habit of the heart. So the central theme of your education is developing yourself in order to serve others. So if your habit of the heart was kindness, you might, do a little unit on, giving cans of food away. So then you'd incorporate the math by adding up the cans, talking about how one act of kindness can lead to others and, doing that sort of thing. For the English, you might be writing cards to someone or, for little kids, English, they're learning vocabulary and they can learn, different poems and things around the theme of kindness. So basically, I think that as far as an education, that's the most important thing I want for my kids. I don't care if they come out, being a genius at some chemistry or whatever. Like that's important. But I think education without the moral foundation is, it's not going to take them anywhere and it's not going to help the world. So that's definitely my focus. And
That's a different take on the education system. I know that probably every single parent listening has one thing or the other that they'd like to change about the education system. I haven't really heard it being centered around habits of the heart before. And I like that. I kind of like that because you bring up a very good point. The education system is kind of designed to create workers to go work in big corporations or in industry of one shape or form or another. And those things are necessary to keep the economic engine of society moving forward. However, is that the most important function for a child? Is that the most important thing they can do when they grow up?
Right.
To be a good worker?
I mean, if we teach kids to care about people and we value as a society the people who are serving, why in the world are our teachers, who are educating the next generation, which is going to impact, society forever and forever? Why are we not valuing them more? Why do we have 25 kids in a class with one teacher? Right. It's just really pointless. I think if we focused our educational model on developing people who cared about each other, I think it'd be a totally different world.
Fascinating. Okay. So Chelsea, I want you to help me out as a parent. Okay. I'm on board with the importance of developing character in kids. Like many of the parents listening, this is something I'd love to do. I'm a busy parent. I want to do this, but I just don't have the creativity or the brain cells to come up with stuff. So help us out. Where can we start? If someone's starting from scratch, they have young kids, and they want to start to teach their kids' character in just a few moments a day, what are some good starting points?
I think probably the easiest place is books. I mean, story time, everyone pretty much, has a nighttime book for their kids or something. So I think there's a wealth of storybooks and different stories, even, chapter type books for older kids that are focused on people doing wonderful things or going through different challenges and the lessons they learn. So I think that that's probably the easiest way to incorporate a discussion around character growth in the family. As far as activities, I have tons of, posts that list out different activities as well as some ebooks. But yeah, I guess it depends on the ages of the kids. But yeah, that's kind of what I would suggest as a starter.
Makes sense. And goodness, you are extremely creative. I happen to be one of those people who is not at all creative with crafts. So I appreciate that ability in other parents. So you have lots of really cool crafts and activities and drawing things and building things on your website. Let me ask a more practical question. So I have two boys. You also have two boys. Mine are 3 years apart. I think yours are about 3 years apart.
Yep, 2.5. Yep.
Okay, 2.5 years apart. So my boys they're close enough to play with each other, and they're also close enough to get on each other's nerves.
Okay. Yeah, I can relate to that.
Yes. And so, sometimes daddy is working. The kids are like right now, they're actually upstairs. They're playing really well together right now, which is great. But sometimes they get on each other's nerves.
Yeah.
Have you found in your household effective ways to curb that dynamic?
I think there's lots of things that we've tried, but I think for me as a mother, one thing I've noticed, I mean, I only have, 7 years of experience of parenting so far. One thing that I've noticed is that kids go through stages, like, when you first have the second child and, my son was 2.5, it's a totally different relationship than it is now with a 7-year-old and a 4.5-year-old.
That's true.
So I think for me, just remembering that these phases come and go and trying to help them meet the needs that they have at the moment. So like my 7-year-old, he can write, he can read, he can build with tiny Lego. And it's frustrating for him if his little brother can't do certain things or can't relate on a certain level. So I think I just try to remember that they don't have to be doing stuff together all the time. It's okay if they get on each other's nerves because, like if someone was at a totally different interest level as me, and that I wouldn't necessarily talk to them, but here's these two siblings and we're expecting them to play together all the time and get along all the time. So I think the way I deal with it, besides, trying to remind them to be kind to each other and that sort of thing, is just try to look for what they need.
So Chelsea, kind of staying on this topic, I really actually like your perspective. The kids getting on each other's nerves, because that's a fantastic analogy, thinking of it as an adult. If you have someone who is, bless their heart, a wonderful person, but they have a completely different interest level on something you're passionate about, if you're forced to hang out with them all day, they're going to get on your nerves.
That's right.
Or why do we expect that our kids not, have that same reaction?
Yeah, I think, I guess, we do want to teach them to get along, but I think that certain things come with time. And I think that with young kids, especially because they are so focused on themselves, I mean, that's where their development level is. So I think, just trying to make sure that we're offering appropriate ways for them to connect and not expecting too much.
Yeah. That's really useful. Another one, Chelsea, that my wife and I are working through right now is developing a positive attitude. Now, I've got to give a disclaimer. My kids actually both have very good attitudes, and that can be a challenge, particularly when they get into school. While they're at home, maybe the only rival, so to speak, that they have is their sibling. Mm-hmm. But once they get to school, now they have to navigate multiple relationships. They start to play sports. They start to learn about sometimes not getting what they want or not doing as well as they wanted to on tests and things of that nature. Mm-hmm. And so I think parents with young kids often struggle with how to help their kids adjust to losing, adjust to not getting their way and things of that nature. What's your take on that? What are some good techniques that you found for helping kids develop a positive attitude?
Oh, well, this is something that I definitely am working on with my own kids. There are several posts I've done on the blog which have different activities or games or exercises you can do to kind of discuss those topics with your kids. I think practicing losing, practicing like at a game of chance, for example, instead of a game of skill, but they're still practicing, what it feels like to lose, what it feels like when someone else wins. And I think kind of going from that perspective, instead of kind of expecting them to automatically have a good attitude, I guess, just realizing that it's a new experience for them and giving them a new chance can help. I think being a model obviously is always the most important. I can see, when my son gets frustrated or, is a little bit negative about something, I can hear my own voice in him. So like I know that they're learning, even if they bring it out in a different context. So definitely it's something that I work on myself with having a positive perspective and making sure that I am not being too hard on myself, because then, they're hard on themselves too.
Wow. Yeah, I know what you mean. I've often heard my voice coming out of my 8-year-old. Sometimes in talking to his younger brother, and I'm like, oh man, is that what I sound like? I need to really be cognizant of that.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're right. They absolutely are modeling. And it's funny because my 5-year-old is really into board games right now. And so we have that challenge of well, he's learning how to lose.
Yep.
Sometimes he loses and it's okay. And other times it's World War III.
Yep.
We just never really know which one we're going to get.
Right, right. It's hard. For that, like when my kids were going through that, I was trying to find games where losing wasn't an issue. So there are some great cooperative games out there that might be useful, because sometimes I think, depending on the ages of the kids, it's an unnecessary test. Like for my kids, at some point we have snakes and ladders, superhero version actually, but it caused issues every time they played it, just because of the nature of the game. You know how you can like get up to the top and then you basically go down, how disappointing is that?
Yes.
So, basically I just said, we're not going to play that game, for a little while, a few weeks. Let's, we have all these other games. There's some great games by a company called Peaceable Kingdom, and they have some awesome, cooperative games. So the kids, they're still rolling the dice, they're still moving the piece, but they're working together. So it's still a fun game, but it kind of takes out that element of competition.
Mm-hmm. That's a good share. Peaceable Kingdom. Very cool. Never really thought of that. And this whole concept of an unnecessary challenge is fascinating to me, Chelsea, because I have to admit this. I'll tell the truth about myself, because I know there's maybe one other parent that also shares this perspective or has been guilty of this. It's the don't shame me sort of viewpoint with your kids, where, okay, you're out in public, or there are other people outside of the family that are around, and you don't want your child to do anything to make you look like you're a bad parent.
Yeah.
And so, if, for example, they look like they don't know how to lose gracefully, they've shamed you. And so at that point, the reaction, sometimes, I've done this before, the reaction isn't necessarily understanding the context, giving them a break based on how old they are. The reaction is, oh no, don't you dare start crying over such and such.
Yeah. I know it's really hard with family. I feel the same way. I only see my family every, couple years, because we live on the other side of the world. So we recently went on a family vacation, and I remember thinking, oh my gosh, at dinner time when we're all eating together, what if my 4-year-old will not eat anything because he's going through a very picky stage at the moment. And I know from my first son that he went through a picky stage at age 4, so I know he's going to get out of it. I know he's eventually going to start eating more than 2 vegetables. I know that he's going to, learn to like food again, because he did used to like things 1 or 2 years ago, but for some reason that's where he's exercising control. And so my husband and I definitely talked before the family vacation, and we said, we are not going to be forcing him to eat things he doesn't like to eat just because there's other people around. We kind of had to unpack those emotions and think about being in public and preparing ourselves so we kind of knew how we were going to respond, because it's really hard. I think things change as you have other people watching you. And I think personally, I have to remember that it doesn't matter who else is watching. What matters is my child. And I don't want to break or damage our relationship just because I'm concerned about my own reputation. But it's hard.
I mean, you hit the nail on the head. That resonates so much. ... But it's still hard.
Yeah.
It's still hard. As a matter of fact, my wife and I went through this before we even had kids, simply just in terms of the husband and wife dynamic. I would say that, well, I grew up in Nigeria, where the expectations of the role of a husband and the role of a wife might be slightly different from expectations here in the United States.
Yes.
And so whenever we'd be around people from, my side of the world, my wife would tell me that I would change. My demeanor would change. Things that didn't bother me before all of a sudden started bothering me. I started having these expectations that I didn't have before. So yeah, those external pressures sometimes can really fracture relationships if we're not careful.
Definitely, yeah.
Wow. Okay. So it almost feels like in trying to be more of an intentional parent Chelsea, while you teach a lot of tactics and activities and methods, it feels like at the heart of it all, almost a lot of it is on the parent in terms of the perspective that the parent brings to the relationship.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I've kind of talked about a few different instances where I'm kind of modifying things so my kids don't go through challenges. Like, I don't want to make it seem like I, change their whole world in order for them to be happy. But at the same time, I think that, parenting is changing from a generation ago, from generations before. Like, I think there's a lot of awareness these days with we're trying to respect our children as people, and they're at a different developmental stage than we are as an adult. So being aware of that and trying to make sure that we give them an environment that doesn't force them to go through things too early, or, like, for example, watching the news and being scared of bombings or shootings or whatever, not giving them that challenge that is a bit too much for where they are at the moment. Yeah. So I definitely, my husband and I do kind of talk about different things and try to be intentional, I guess, about what circumstances we're creating for our kids, and thinking about how our relationship will be affected by our choices.
Yeah, I like that a lot. We don't watch the news while the kids are up. Even listening to the radio, I don't know what radio stations are like in Australia, but here in the U.S., it's even hard for us to listen to the radio station. We can't listen to any news stations, or we choose not to, I should say. And then even contemporary music, at least for our family, we choose not to play it around the kids because every now and then there's sexual innuendo in there,
right.
Or, stuff that, we just don't want our kids exposed to.
It's unfortunate.
So we're either, it is. There are lots of great songs out there, but they just slip in this content that is just not kid friendly, and we're like, we can't listen to that either.
I know. Well, it's even the same with media. I mean, there's a lot of great storylines and plots in movies, and then they just add, bad language, name calling, the girl with the really low shirt, whatever it is. Yeah. They just, I just don't know why they have to do that. Like, it would be really nice if whoever, is overseeing that would kind of think about what it's doing to our kids. But anyway, new generation, hopefully things will be getting better, hopefully.
So, along that vein, Chelsea, we agree about not exposing the kids to things like violence in the news and things of that nature. But on the other side of the coin, you have featured activities that teach young kids, preschoolers, about things like hunger, right? So let's talk a little bit about that. That's something that, depending on how the conversation is framed, could be scary,
right,
to a child who maybe has never involuntarily missed a meal,
right?
How do you go by explaining things like hunger in other parts of the world?
That is tricky. I mean, I think that we've had different conversations, and we've actually visited, because we've traveled a bit with the kids. They spent a couple months in Papua New Guinea, which is where my husband grew up. And and there's definitely visible, poverty there. So I'm not a child, so I don't really know what they would pick up from those situations and what they might remember about the conversations we've had. But I don't want to shield my kids from reality. I don't want them to just, I'm not a parent who focuses on giving my kids a fun childhood. Like, I think fun is good, but I want them to, start out knowing that they can make a difference, knowing that the purpose of life is to serve others and not to just gratify our own, dreams and whatever. So I think it is important to talk about certain issues with kids, but I guess in a child appropriate way. So I guess hunger is something that they might be able to, contribute to fixing, whether that's donating or feeding someone else. Whereas shooting, I guess, it's inflicted upon you.
Yeah.
So I guess it's a tricky one.
Yeah. But I get that. I really do get that distinction. And I think that's a good way of looking at it. Okay. So, Chelsea, this has been really interesting. I know that you have your baby girl, you have your two boys, your baby girl who's 11 months, about to turn 1. You are going, the blog is going like gangbusters. I think I read you had about 700,000 unique visitors in 2015. That is mind-blowing. It's great. But one of your favorite posts this year, Chelsea, was titled, "The Kitchen Can Wait."
Mm-hmm.
I read The Kitchen Can Wait, and I was blown away by it. I wonder if you could tell us a little bit. Not only was I blown away by it was very touching, very heartfelt, very emotional, but I could also identify because my wife and I feel like the house is always messy.
Mm-hmm.
We feel like it's always messy, and yet you say the kitchen can wait. Tell me a little bit about that piece.
Well, I wrote this for myself because if I'm playing with the kids, I might see, the kitchen out of the corner of my eye and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I need to clean that up before I need to cook dinner. It's definitely a reminder to myself to live in the moment and to remember that a few more minutes is not going to make a difference, to a child who's come up and has asked you, will you play this game with me? You have to be realistic. I don't think that you can just drop all house cleaning, obviously. But I have to remind myself that it's not going to make a difference if I do it in 5 minutes. I can still give undivided time to my child and then do what I need to do. And even tell them, sometimes I set a timer and I say, I'm going to play with you guys, for 10 or 20 minutes. And when the timer goes off, I need to do some jobs, So I guess that poem was kind of coming from a reminder to myself and also the rewards that I feel when I do give my kids undivided attention.
Attention. Yeah, that was a really difficult one for me, the undivided attention piece, because and this is something I'm aware of and I'm working on it now, so I'm doing a lot better. But as recently as months ago, my boys would want to play. I'd be working because they get home from school about 3:30. I work from home, so as soon as they get home, I'm there.
Mm-hmm.
And they want to play. They want to play with Dad. Dad's sitting right there. His arms and legs are working. Why can't he play? And so initially, I wouldn't give them a specific time. I'd be like, okay, give me a few minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be right there. Let me just do this. Let me just do that. And so they didn't really know if it was going to be hours or minutes. They had no idea. And then secondly, when eventually I'd make my way over to them, I'd have my smartphone, I'd be checking email, I'd be trying to multitask, and I wasn't doing anyone a good service by doing it that way. I think a lot of parents, maybe guys more than moms, I don't know, might struggle with that. And so I don't know, Chelsea, if you had any struggles with that or your husband did. What are good, if so, what are good ways to get over the hump and to get better at not multitasking, being present?
Well, I definitely struggle with this. So you're definitely not alone. But I think for me, when I kind of thought about why I wasn't giving my attention, a lot of the times it had to do with I didn't necessarily enjoy the activities they were wanting to do.
Interesting.
So, I had 2 boys. I didn't grow up with any brothers. And I realized that I started tuning out as soon as Star Wars, wrestling, ninjas, whatever came up, I'd be like, oh, I just cannot play this, So
apologies to all the Star Wars fans out there.
No, I actually love Star Wars, but as far as playing it, getting up and pretending like you're using a lightsaber, that wasn't my forte.
Mm-hmm.
So I've written about this on the blog, especially connecting with boys as a mother, because the play interests are different. What I've had to do is identify things that I do enjoy doing with my kids. So, for example, I'm happy to read them books. I can do the voices. I can, ask them questions about it. I enjoy story time. I enjoy jumping on the trampoline. I enjoy painting, but I don't necessarily enjoy the make-believe play and the wrestling. So I don't try to, turn off that, but I might suggest doing a certain thing, or, when it gets to a certain point when I can feel myself like just getting really frustrated and, having my limit of attention to that certain thing, I try to recognize what I'm feeling and then try to find a way we can connect.
That's so good. That's so good. My older son, my 8-year-old, he plays soccer, and I'm a soccer player myself. And I found that, well, that's pretty much what he wants to do. Every afternoon when he gets home, he wants to play soccer with Daddy in the living room. And I actually enjoy soccer. So to your point, I never thought of it that way, but all of a sudden it doesn't feel like such a chore.
Right.
Because it's something that I like. Now, maybe I'm lucky in that he's old enough to where we now have a real shared interest. Maybe not every parent might be that lucky, but it sounds like there's at least room to explore, suggests moving them closer to the kind of activities that you like.
Right. And even introducing them to some of your own interests. Yeah. I think that I've, discussed this with my husband quite a few times. Sometimes I just have to find something that I enjoy and then see if they enjoy it as well. Okay. Like cooking muffins. My 4-year-old loves baking and stuff. Well, so we can connect over that.
Look at that. Look at that. That is so awesome. I love that. I love that. This is a lot of fun. And I got to be honest, you're giving me a really different way to look at a lot of these challenges. So I really appreciate that. A lot of perspective shifting here. But Chelsea, we can't keep you forever, even though I'd love to talk for an hour more. So we're going to bring this to a close. But before we do, Chelsea, one thing that we do on the show is we take everyone through what we call the lightning round. And in the lightning round, we're going to whirl you back to your childhood and go through some of your childhood memories. So with your permission, we're going through the lightning round. Are you ready for that, Chelsea?
Yes.
That wasn't an enthusiastic yes, but we'll take it. All right, folks, let's go through the lightning round. Question number 1. These are going to be lightning fast, so just answer them as quickly as you can. The first thing that comes to mind. Question number 1. Chelsea, who was your favorite superhero growing up?
I have to say Superman, Lois and Lane.
Oh, love it, love it, love it. Classic. What about your favorite cartoon as a kid?
We actually did not watch cartoons. I know that sounds crazy, but we did watch Disney movies. But
okay, that counts.
Okay.
I love Disney movies.
Yeah. Favorite Disney movie would probably have been Beauty and the Beast.
Okay, yeah, that's a good one. That's definitely a good one. What was maybe a favorite family tradition growing up?
Does pizza night count?
Pizza night definitely counts. When did you do pizza night? Was that Friday, Saturday?
I think, they had a special like 2 for Tuesday,
Yeah.
From Pizza Hut or something. So I remember that. Yeah. Just,
I love that.
Having a food that, you're going to like and, everyone is relaxed. Yep.
That's a good one. All right. Now, Chelsea, do you remember maybe one embarrassing moment as a child? Do you have one of those maybe cringe-worthy moments, memories that sticks out with you still?
When I was it was either 1st or 2nd grade, I got in trouble for, just like we had this game. I was ducking beneath the windows as we were walking in line, and my teacher, thought that was being rowdy or something, and I had to sit on the carpet during playtime. And because I had never, ever gotten in trouble before, that was just such an embarrassing moment. And, I don't think I ever got in trouble after that. So it was like pretty traumatic,
Oh, that's funny. That's funny. I understand. Chelsea, looking back, final question, looking back at your childhood, how did it lead you to where you are today? How did your childhood help shape the Chelsea Lee Smith that we know today?
Well, my parents were always really encouraging and focused on some of the things, that I'm focusing on now. And definitely, my faith, we're Baha'is, and them involving me in service projects and community things that we would do within the Baha'i community, definitely, that is definitely the thing that shaped me the most. Yeah.
Chelsea, this has been a lot of fun. I really appreciate it. Folks, you can find more of Chelsea's amazing insights at the website momentsaday.com. That's momentsaday.com. Chelsea, we've got one more question for you. It's the last one, and it's a bit of a doozy. Chelsea, this question is you leaving a time capsule for your kids.
Okay.
So here's how this works. We'd like you to pretend it's 30 years from now. So it is December 2045.
Wow.
The kids are all grown up. They're married. Maybe they even have kids of their own. They're well adjusted. They're doing well. They're contributing to society. And at that moment, they're going to get to listen to this audio. Somebody's going to pull this out of the archives. I don't think they'll have iPods or iPhones at that point. Who knows what they'll be listening to? But they'll find this audio, and they're going to get to listen to Mom leaving them an audio message. Chelsea, we'd love if you could say a word to your kids right now about why you made the decisions you did as a mother, why you loved them the way you did when they were so young, why you were so intentional about spending time with them and teaching them character. Let's chat with your kids right now. What would you like to say to them?
There's a lot of things that they would probably ask. We all, question why our parents did things the way they did. But I think I would want them to know that their father and I guess the purpose of doing everything was to help other people. So in raising them and giving them the experiences we did, we hope that they found value and happiness in living life with relationships at the forefront, not stuff, not fame, not, having a degree or whatever it is. But we hope that they find value in being true to themselves and giving to others.
Love it. Love it. Folks, we've been talking with Chelsea Smith of momentsaday.com. This has been an amazing conversation. Very excited about where you're going in 2016. Folks, if you want to learn how to teach your kids to live a life of kindness, if you want to be a more intentional parent, Moments a Day is a resource you can't do without. Chelsea, thank you.
Thanks. So glad to be here.
All right, folks, this has been a fun one. Until tomorrow, it's up, up, and away.
Thanks for supporting my dad's show. If you like what you hear, please subscribe to iTunes. He said hot chocolate is for closers. If you don't subscribe, I don't get hot chocolate. I love hot chocolate.
Fear not. Although this chapter of Bravepreneur Parents Academy has come to its conclusion, we have many more adventures for you and your brave little heroes. Head over to bravequest.me for access to the Brave Quest Journal, an interactive activity playbook that rewards your little ones with points for accomplishing tasks that build character and unleash your child's inner superhero all before bedtime. We look forward to having you join us for more adventures next time on Bravepreneur Parents Academy.